Good morning. Maybe I have sound today already from the start. Might work. Was a bit silly yesterday when I did it muted, or I actually had the wrong. I think it was because I had unplugged my USB headset and put it back again, so it appeared differently. So I had to change the properties to actually find the correct USB import. Blah blah blah. But anyway, and now I'm here, and I am going to go. So I updated this little working on info screen here that I created yesterday. So now it actually says what I'm working on, and I intend to continue from where I left off yesterday, more or less, to build the tiny curl thing. I got some feedback from one of the engineers at Wolf SSL, so I have an idea what to try. I just wanted to show you also this little thing. So out of the pull requests that we have in curl right now, a lot of us have pushed a lot of things to different branches. So the CIs are really busy. So annoyingly busy. It takes a long time for the builds to complete. I hate when that there's a bug in my streaming software that makes it lose which browser it should show in there. Sometimes it switches to another browser that shows my tweet deck instead. Okay, so actually we have a bug that pointed out that we don't parse if you specify the proxy string and you build with the CARES name resolver backend. We don't parse the zone ID properly if you specify it as an IPv6 numerical address. Rather specific, funny bug. And when I started to look at that, I realized that, wait a minute, we fixed that zone ID parsing in URLs just a while ago. Well, I fixed it. So I figured, why do we still have that problem in parsing the proxy? And then I realized that we're not parsing the proxy with the URL parser, which we should. So I created this pull request. Rewrite the proxy string parser code to use the URL parser, since it makes sense to use the single unified parser to have everything behave more unified, the same way everywhere. It is basically a URL. We treat it as a URL anyway when you specify a proxy. So sure, do that, and that's a really cool pull request in that it actually removes 148 lines and add 83, so it's a net gain with 70 lines of code or so. Awesome. But as you can see, also caused test failures. And then I realized what's failing now. So I realized that one of the tests that are failing is test 1447, which specifies a proxy using a URL format but without an actual hostname. So it says user : password at no hostname at all / blah blah blah. And previously with the old parser we had detected that and returned an error, but with the new URL parser we accepted it. But wait a minute, why do we accept that? A URL without a hostname. That's not a valid URL, right? So then instead of fixing that, I posted a second pull request, a separate at least, the 3880, which is then fixing the URL parser to require at least 1 byte hostname in a URL when it parses a URL. So I want to land that first and then rerun the proxy tests to use this parser, and then I can land that possibly. And when I've landed that, ideally that other bug about providing a proxy string with zone ID built when a CIRIS is used should not work properly, but at least be less buggy, because we still won't use the zone properly, but we will at least cut it out from the host name. And in this case then these URL parser tests, they are really slow, and I wanted Travis builds to go through, and they haven't even started. As we can see here, they're all in queue, even though I pushed this a long time ago. So I created it 14 hours ago, and the Travis build haven't even started. Yeah, it's a sad situation. We have discussed if we can or should go up to some paid account level grade on Travis, so that we could get more priority, more machines, more CPU there, so our CIs won't take this long. But we haven't, and as far as I understand, it's pretty expensive. So going from paying nothing to paying several thousands of dollars per year is quite a steep step. So, well, I haven't fully investigated it, and we haven't taken that step, but still. So that's the situation on some of the pull requests that I'm having. I also have another pull request, which I think it might also work out. So this is a fix for the configure script. When you specify -- with SSL, like this, configure with SSL, somehow you point out a new directory, or you just say specifically I wanted to build with OpenSSL, and it fails to find OpenSSL. In the default build, it can actually in some instances just move on and build curl without SSL then, because it didn't find it. This change tries to instead error out. If you specify that you want SSL, OpenSSL in the build, and it doesn't find it, it'll error out and say so. Just a helpful thing. Yeah, that Parrot Live thing is actually an awesome terminal. I think I started a wiki page at some point with fun terminal tricks with curl. And you know, this weather.in thing is otherwise a very popular and fun terminal service. Igor, the guy who makes that weather.in site, he makes a lot of other different terminal things as well for curl. Pretty cool, actually. ISP-NP. I have no idea what you're talking about, so I'll just ignore that and move on. Okay, so well, this little configure thing I think will go through as well. It is also very slow. So it has started, so yeah, there are builds going. And as you can see, they take a long time, so each take 40 minutes. And it runs, a bunch of them in parallel, but there are 31 of them just on Travis. And then, yes, these buildbots, these are also good because they build for Windows, but cross-compiled on Linux, and they use configure too. So when they are good, and the Travis builds are good, and the FreeBSD builds are good, that makes it would be pretty good. Polynomials. That's a very good question. That's not my expertise area, so I think I'll skip that question. Okie dokie, so I'm back to doing. All right, so I decided, or I talked to to an open, not open, a Wolf SSL guy yesterday, who actually pointed out that there's better free RTOS support in later Wolf SSL versions. So I am going to upgrade my Wolf SSL version that I built for FreeRTOS. Even though there was a WolfSSL version bundled with FreeRTOS, it seems to be too old to be the good choice here. So I'm going to download this one. Source code. Here's for. I'm going to copy link location, and I'm going to go to terminal. So here's my laptop again. It's called Totte. And I'm going to change the camera a little bit today to make me not sit too much in the corner. I wonder if I should move it this way. Should I? Should move the other way. I don't know. I'm sure this is fine. So again, okay, I copied. So you have new mail. Okay. Copy the link location. So I'm going to download the latest Wolf SSL release 4.0.0 stable. That was a very slow down. I have a really fast network, so when something goes in the 100k per second or less, it's a slow machine in the other end. It's okay. V00. I'm going to rename this because it's otherwise I won't remember what it is. And just check that it uses a good prefix directory name. So let's extract that in my source directory. Boom. So I have a Wolf SSL stable here. And back into the tiny app. And now I hope that it'll pay off. So I previously used a damn it. I just can't avoid saying OpenSSL all the time just because it's an SSL library, but it isn't OpenSSL in this case, it's Wolf SSL. So it turned out that I used previously, yesterday, I used the 3.6.0 release, which happens to be about 4 years old. So very outdated then, I guess, with the modern standards. So I'm going to switch to the one I just downloaded. So hopefully it'll work out fine by just changing my make file. I will probably have to update something more, like specifying exactly the new set of source files. Like this. Here are the source files. 2, 4, 6, 8. I think there are more source files now. Yes, 3 more. It says 12, but that's a headline as well. So But okay, let's me try first to just change this freeze. It's in home. Well, the new Wolf SSL root is in home source. Oh, like that. Wolf lib is there, wolf inc, wolf cryptlib. I'm just going to try to go with make here and see what happens. That didn't go very well, but okay. What's the start? There's no IO anymore. There isn't. It's now bio. But okay, so let me do an updated list of... that's an AM file too. An updated list of files. 10 of them. It's okay. I'll copy that list. Boom. Sorry, I can do like this. If I replace .c with .o/. There it is. Update a list of object files, and I'm going to make again. Bio. Oh, right. Because I had them down here, so it's actually bio now. I hadn't fixed that little thing. Warning, bio does not need to be compiled separately from SSL. That's a weird message. If not bio included. Okay, then I need to understand that perhaps, right? Does not need. Okay. I find it good that you have an interesting discussion there about polynomials. I'll just keep on working on this. This is much simpler. So what if I just skip bio for now? I'll just comment it now so that I'll remember that I did it. Keys, warning, for timing resistance, blah blah, consider hardening options. Yes. Harden. Warning for not... Okay, but let's ignore that warning for now. I got worse things, I think. Like that. Sys socket. But now I think I need... I think there's a... There it is. I should define free RTOS TCP when I build Wolf. Wolf build. Here. I'll define free RTOS TCP. Ooh. Okay. No cipher suites defined because DH disabled, ECC disabled, and no static suits defined. Yeah, this isn't really good. I guess I need to since I just went with the default source code here, I didn't configure it in any way. I guess I need to configure it better so I get at some defaults. And you know, I'm really not at all an expert in TLS. I just play one at a time, so sometimes I just need someone to slap me to realize that I'm doing it wrong. It's okay. Settings.h, let's see. FreeRTOS. If not define have DH. But okay. Okay, why does it say that? Let me just go back and see that it's using, that's the SSL warning, wasn't it? It's an error actually, yes. So we can't just ignore it either. Right, I figured one of these should be enabled. Uncomment next line, if using FreeRTOS. We are. If FreeRTOS TCP, we are. Does it make any difference? No. So I think I'll revert those changes because it feels better to use the code unchanged to the highest degree possible. Okay, so there's some sort of, when I build OpenSSL, again, it's not open. Okay, I'm switching to my other machine here. I'll just go to, just looking at my Wolf SSH SSL build here. Where are the settings? A lot of different user settings depending on what you build with. Now I'm getting serious here. There. Today I actually finished my coffee while it was still at least lukewarm. Settings. But there's Wolf SSL. I don't have metrics for how much curl is used since that wouldn't really be in line with what it does. But I have this fun game where I collect screenshots from people reporting where they find curl is used. Like car about screens or game info screens or ending sequences in things, and about screens in apps on phones, and only based on that I can then guesstimate how many installations there are of curl, depending then on where people find curl. And actually I'm not sure it was a good idea or a bad idea, but it happens that in the curl license, which is first, the curl license mentions my name and my email address, which makes it a good string to search for. Hacks license curl blah blah blah, and I can Google for it. But and then so that I can start finding devices that are using curl somewhere. I can't really know what they're doing with it or which version it is and so on. But I can find it. So then I of course I have some friends and developers who tell me that they're using curl. So I know that curl is used in somewhere around 6 billion installations, which I guess could be more than Java. I don't know. It's at least in the higher end of any software component ever, since it's basically in every Android phone, every iOS device. That makes it roughly 4 billion devices, and it's in Windows 10, soon 1 billion Windows 10 installations. It is in 400 million TVs, it's roughly 500 million games. Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption 2, some of those big sell games. It's in pretty much all modern cars. So I checked a while ago. 8 of the top 10 car brands in the world are using curl somewhere in their machines. So quite a lot of curl installations everywhere. Well, it would be weird to constantly think about how many are using curl or not. So yeah, it's not really something that I walk around thinking about day to day. So I'm kept in reality pretty firmly, and I have this number of bug reports, and I'm struggling to fix issues. People are complaining things doesn't work and don't work. So those are the things I'm fiddling with. So I don't really think about, oh right, we have several billion installations of the code somewhere running. It's not something that I think about day to day. But of course, sitting back and just, whoa, that's a lot of places that are actually running our code. So, but the beauty of it is possibly that it's actually an encouragement for people to help out with curl, because helping out with curl or landing a fix that you do could actually make your code end up in everywhere on the globe. So if you fix some code today, in a few years, your code will run in more devices than most of your friends' code ever will. But it's cool. It's really cool, and it works pretty good. And I think there are some more devices we can put it on until we can declare total victory. No, I'm kidding. I just wanted to mention that curl is used in, I said, virtually all Android phones, but it isn't present in the default Google Android image. So if you're just running a clean Android without any apps, you're not using curl, I think. It is used by the AOSP. So if you install the AOSP, the Android Open Source Project Android, there's a curl installation in there. And curl is also used by some of those popular applications that basically everyone uses. The YouTube app, Instagram, Skype, Spotify. So if you're using one of those apps, you have an installation of curl in them. And if you're using all of those apps, you have one installation from each of those apps. So actually, if I would actually count installations, I would imagine that we would have, I mean, I said 4 billion phones basically, or portable devices. I think it's actually more than 4 billion installations of curl in all of those, because typically all of these applications, they have their own curl instance. So if all of those are using 3 apps each, that would be 12 billion installations. But it's, again, all of that is just estimates and guesstimates, and I don't know. It's impossible to know for sure. But I think we can be fairly sure that it's a large amount. And also that's why I try to get away from the question, how many users do we have? Because it's not a good way. Those are not really users, or are they? I mean, it could be one developer putting curl into a little thing, and that little thing could be used by 1 billion humans, right? How many users do we have then? Is that one user, or is that 1 billion users, or is it no users? Because they who happen to end up using this product, they have no idea that they're using curl at all. So I try to not talk about users anymore. I talk about curl installations, even though that is also, I don't know, it's hard to figure out exactly. Yeah, I can figure. Well, I don't think actually traffic on GitHub is completely impossible to use as a metric, because most users, of course, as I said, if you're using YouTube, right, you have no idea you're using curl and you don't care about it, and you would never even ever contact us about it. And a lot of users are they never contact us about any curl issues anyway, because they're using curl in some other environment where they don't consider us as the source to complain to, right? So a lot of people, for example, they report bugs to their Linux distro instead of to us, or to Apple if they happen to run Mac OS, or to Microsoft if they happen to run on Windows. So a lot of things makes add layers that are helping us with the support. So it takes the support away from us, but it also makes us not notice them. So sure, in theory, YouTube developers might contact us, or maybe they already did, and without telling us that they were actually from YouTube, or maybe they stopped using curl. I don't know. They never told me they started using it. I don't know what to use it for. Maybe they don't use it anymore. I don't know. I know that it was present. It might still be in the licensing screen that they ship on Android when it says we are using these third-party things. And really, that's how it goes usually. People don't tell me that they're using curl. They just grab it, build it, ship it, and they're happy with it. So and if it works for them and they're happy, then everything is good. I don't need to find out either. Yeah, but even we do have a fair amount of bugs, even though, of course, a lot of problems people have are just misunderstandings, or exactly a silly server, or documentation that isn't really clearly explaining how things are supposed to work, and so on. So of course there are all sorts of different problems you can have, but we do have bugs every now and then, of course, and especially in things that we introduce over time. So things that were more recently introduced, of course, are more likely to actually have a bug than things that have been in there since the dawn of time. So I was hoping to find one of these user settings generated for my build when I built wolfSSL, but they all seem to be handcrafted for different environments. Um, so I'm going to try to figure out what's done sensible, if I can put some things sensible. Oh no, I know. I'll compare with if I can find the user settings in the free RTOS build. Couldn't. Maybe it was. Maybe. STM32 at least it mentions, but I don't have a STM32F2. I have an STM32L4, but it's still close. But this looks like hardware things that I'm not sure that my hardware has. So, okay. I think I'll end up having to ask more colleagues, or having to go back to my colleagues to ask about this, since I'm a little bit clueless when it comes to building wolfSSL on esoteric targets. You back here. Where am I? I don't have an EM. I can't learn it. I should create one of those aliases, because I use an EM alias on many places, short for Emacs, in terminal. So I use it on several of my machines just when I want to fire up an Emacs in my terminal. I could also fire up a proper Emacs, but yeah, it'll just ruin my streaming setup. So here's what I did. As I said, I'm gonna try a different order to see if I can build more in another order. Or no, it'll just stop on the same problems, because I need to fix that. Oh right, no, okay, yeah, but that's a good thing. I can. So it warns for the same thing. So I need to fix that warning. So let me go back. No, I have ECC timing resistant. Use fast math. Yeah, I might as well ask. I don't want to just get lost in this maze of things, because I don't understand it correctly. So I'll leave it like that. Yeah, I got a little bit further, so clearly it's a much better foundation for me to build on this version instead of the old version of wolfSSL. So yeah, one step forward, not a very big step forward. So I'm going to then just check the status of my pull requests. Oh, did I close that? Git curl Carl. So again, slightly annoying that our CI is so very slow, especially now. I want to land this perhaps most urgently. Pending build is in none has started. No. "15 hours ago." 15 hours and not one has started. Yeah, I actually, when I started the project that then became curl, I started working on HTTP transfers, downloads in 1996, and when I wanted to do that, I tried to find a little tool like curl to do it, and I didn't find anything. And sure, in hindsight, I know that wget existed at the time. I didn't find it when I searched for it, or maybe I found it and didn't like it. I don't actually remember. But I found another tool called HTTP get, written by a Brazilian guy. It's actually in the history file in the curl repository. So I found that tool, and it did almost what I wanted, and then I started improving it and changing it slightly, and then after a short while I became the maintainer of that little tool. I think it's also in, and so we did HTTP with that. It was called HTTP get. It got HTTP, right? So but after a while I added support for Gopher too. So then it turned out to become a multi-protocol thing. So HTTP get wasn't really suitable. Then we renamed it to URL get instead. And URL get was fine. Well, and then we added support for FTP, and then I added support for FTP upload, and then URL get became a silly name too, because it didn't really only get URLs, it also put them or uploaded them. So URL get was a silly name as well. So I renamed it again in 1998, then in the spring. So then I wanted a name using URL in the name, because it already then worked with URLs, and then I just wanted it to be short and sort of, I don't know, fun. Yes, exactly. So and then the C was then supposed to be either it would be a client for URLs, or it would be C as in the English, just C the URL, as in more or less like the cat command but for URLs. So sure, C URL, that's curl, and curl is also an English word, right? And it's easy to type, and it's there, and it's just 4 letters. So it was, sure, why not? Curl it is. And I think curl is a pretty good name. I'm not dissatisfied with that, and that stuck. March 20, 1998. It was born, or I did the first release of curl. Curl 4.0 I called it, because I kept the numbering from the previous names, the version numbers. And I was very promiscuous with version numbering these days. So it was version 4, and by the year 2000, 2 years later, we were up to version 7. And we're still on version 7, right? I stopped bumping the version number. Actually stopped bumping the version number when we created Uh, the library, libcurl, was created in the year 2000 after the summer. I think we released it in August 2000, and then I called it 7.1 because it was a fairly big change to do the library, so that we had to, stick to an API and ABI and everything. So I released libcurl, and then boom, version 7, and then we're stuck on version 7 since then. 19 years later, I'm still struggling to come up with a good reason or idea on how to bump the version number to 8. At some point, I'm going to have to bump the version number. We've been here on 19 years. Maybe we should bump the version number at some point. And I have these. I know that users, users will get confused. It's 7.6. We're going to release 7.65 next week. Actually, in 8 days, right? Next Wednesday, that is going to be 7.65. And I know that if we go up to 7.99, I know that users are going to be severely confused if we release 7.100, because people will view that as some people will see it as 7.1 instead of 7.100. So after 99, I don't want to reach 7.100. I want to bump to 8 before we get to 7.100, which then means we have about 35 releases. In the worst case, if we bump the minor version number every time, that is 35 releases until we have to do version 8. And if we do the releases every 8 weeks, that's math, 35 times 8 weeks. So that is about 5 years, or give or take. It's a little bit more than 5 years. So I have to come up with a good reason and bump to version 8 within 5 years. Should be doable. I'm nowadays I'm more leaning towards just ignoring. I'm leaning towards doing the Linux way. Basically, we don't need a big major thing as an excuse to go to 8, but one day we'll just bump it to version 8 and keep going on version 8 instead, and be happy with that. Probably leave all the ABI numbers exactly as they are, so it won't be any major change for any users. We'll just change the numbering to 8 and be happy with that, and then go, because then we can go another 100 releases before we have to bump it again. And 100 releases times 8 weeks, that's 800 weeks. That's a long time. That's what is that, 40 years? So yeah, I guess 40 years into the future, I might not be the maintainer anymore. Who knows? I get that question a lot. How long time I'm going to keep doing this, and if I never get tired of it. And I don't know. I haven't grown tired of it yet, at least. And as I said, I started in '96. Been doing it for a while. Okay, I'm just sitting here blabbering because I got a bit of into that little situation with a build there. I'm going to, instead of wasting time on it myself, I'm going to go back and ask for some assistance from my friends at wolfSSL. I actually filed a bug with them yesterday about this. I also filed a bug about the wolfSSH problem I had with my other wolfSSH branch. I have quite a few branches going on at the same time. So and it looks like a wolfSSH bug. Maybe it is, maybe I'm just not understanding the API correctly, so maybe it's my fault. I just wanted them to say that it works fine from there and fix your shit, and then I can fix my shit, or vice versa. We'll see about that. I have started another discussion with another big company. I think I'll refrain from making that too public until we know more. But another big company is making an open source Quick and HTTP3 library that they're interested in seeing used by curl. So maybe I'm going to work a little with them to see if we can add a third Quick library to the support for that curl supports. I mean, we don't actually speak Quick or HTTP3 with any of those libraries correctly or all the way yet, but we have a branch going and the beginnings of support for it. So why not add the beginnings for yet another library in there? We'll see about that. It might be fun, especially if they want to put in some effort to make it happen and make it work. Then I'm fine with supporting pretty much any library as then we have more options and we can select from several backends and we can go with the one that works best and that or ultimately with the one that people are actually wanting to use. Since we're right now in a pretty early state of Quick and HTTP3, and I don't think we can say really at this point exactly where we will end up when it comes to which libraries that are going to be the ones that everyone will use and be shipped everywhere. So if you go here to, I have this other pull request which I've talked about. This is the pull request. Where is it? I better limit it to my own. Here are my pull requests. I have this allow disabling of more features, which is my tiny curl set of patches. It has been reduced because I've landed a few separately, and I'm testing out some of those in a separate branch called Bagder CI. And this isn't actually a pull request, it's just a separate branch. So this seemed to cause build problems somewhere. Oh, right. Regular CI infrastructure issues. And I'm going to check if that's 16 minutes. That's usually not an infrastructure issue. Here's so my set of patches to do. Yes, awesome. My set of patches to do tiny curl they're not really very intrusive, but I made tiny curl and I made it for target and I made it support really small builds. And I wanted to upstream those changes, but in that work I realized that I was a bit too aggressive with some of them, so I'm having a bit of struggle to realize exactly where I broke everything. So I'm more or less bisecting my way, trying out a different set of patches in this branch. So if I go back here to my curl code, and here's the Bagder CI, and I have these so this is the build that failed, and I'm going to mimic that build in my own local directory. It uses so looking at the failure here, this is a good setup to use. This is the configure options used to do this build. So I'm going to just use that configure option in my build. First, rebuild configure. I've done that mistake so many times. I switch branch and I use a configure that is somehow configure script that used in another branch and build it, and it's defected or defect. So okay, I run configure with this set of options. I enable some more, like enable debug and enable maintainer mode and disable shared. A good set of options. Go. No, well, as it says, I'll just maybe now upstreaming tiny curl patches. So the target I have is an STM32L4 chip. It's actually a dev board from STM. It's called IoT node or something. Let's see, I have a link somewhere. This is actually the target dev board I'm using. So I am not testing on board. I'm still struggling with the build. So I haven't actually run it on target yet because I'm still struggling with the build. But so I'm switching to my work on upstreaming the patches. So okay, here's the build, and I disable HTTP SMTP IMAP, and we can see that in the summary here. There's no HTTP, no IMAP, and SMTP in the list. So that's fine. And in the browser, I could see that it built fine, everything was, but it failed on tests. So it failed on test 200, for example. So let's go back and run test 200. Build the test suite. A lot of files to build, and now we run test 200 and it's supposed to fail. In this case, I think it's a good failure because now I managed to reproduce it. An unknown option was passed to libcurl. Yeah, that's what we want to see. Not very helpful message because which is it? So which one is it? I'm going to debug the tool setup function. I believe this is the function in the curl tool code that actually calls curl easy setup. I'm going to do like this just to see if it's correct. Opt name. What happens if I do that? Rebuild curl. Rerun 200. Check out standard error. Sorry, wrong standard error. 200. Interleave data. Yes. And then we know, I'm pretty sure that is the one because interleave data, that's an RTSP option. RTSP support requires HTTP support, and we disabled HTTP support, so it shouldn't actually set the interleave data. Interleave. I'm a bit curious here. So interleave data. If not defined curl disable. I'm not sure if yeah, well, it's RTSP, so rebuild it, check it out, and it works. Okay. The question is then, was that the only switching back to the browser and the test failures? There were a lot of test failures, but I can do like this. I'll just head down to the bottom, because at the end of the run here, a lot of outputs from the failures. At the end of the run, it summarizes, here are all these test cases failed. I'll just copy that list, and I'll run them all with -n. -n disables valgrind. And while disabling valgrind isn't really recommended, it makes the tests run so much faster. So yeah, that worked. And with valgrind, as you can see, it runs quite significantly slower. But yeah, seems to be fine. It works fine. It was just that little interleave data, so maybe that is I'll now just, if we origin master, if we check, these are the commits then in my branch here. If def away more, I don't get it. They sound exactly the same. Something is wrong. They seem like a duplicate or something. I guess this is the one that changes the interleave data handling. I'm gonna to revert the little change there in the debug change I did. I'm going to rebase this branch too. All right, I have changes. I should just get tool operate disable interleave data when built without RTSP, and then we rebase it. Bum 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 bum. Okie dokie. Oh yeah, something changed. I rebased it, and the configure.ac changed. So I'm going to rebuild and rerun the test suite, and of course that'll take a while, but still, it'll save some CI rounds if I detect the problems before I land it for the CI. So might just as well do the right thing and fix the bugs locally first. rebuilding the full curl build with the bug. Yes, I still have this disabled build, so there's no HTTP and stuff, but that's pretty good, because that's a significant much fewer tests to actually run. So running the test suite with a lot of protocols disabled is much faster. And I switched off Valgrind in this run as well, so it can go through the test cases at least in a manageable time. Remaining is estimates 1 minute, but okay, it really has no clue. It should be done within a few minutes. And as I mentioned, I don't do this in a pull request, but all branches that we push to GitHub that ends with /CI will be built by the CI builds anyway. So we can actually just push a branch and have it tested by the CI builders without making a PR out of it. Which it's useful at times. I don't have to. I can just fire it off and see that it still builds without showing enough as a PR. There's not such a big difference anyway. I mean, people will still see the branch and they can still check it out and do whatever they want with it. Looking good so far. And it says a total number of test cases here, and that's just by the number of files it found in the directory. So it says 1229 here, but that is before it has actually checked if it can run those particular tests. So it doesn't mean that it'll actually run 1229 tests for this setup, because a lot of them will require protocols that we now have disabled in this build. That is then also why there are gaps in the numbering. Well, there are gaps in the numbering anyway, but there are more gaps now for tests that can't be run. And now I remember exactly. This is something I fixed before, so I'm going to check out my other branch called Disable More Features. That is this disable RTSP for interleave data. And it fixes those two. It comes back to me. So I have this problem that the PR I'm doing, it fails in mysterious ways on in the Windows builds. So I'm trying to narrow down and just make sure that I can do few commits and make sure that it builds everything fine in the CI, and then merge them to narrow it down to just have a few commits that causes the build failures, so that it'll make me understand them better. So this is actually one of these. This is a limited set of changes from there. Let's build. Just want to double check that this actually works on master, or did I break master too? So, verify and master that I can run the test suite. No, I haven't had anyone volunteer for that. We should do something like that to make it easier for users to switch on and off features and protocols and stuff, because now it's pretty difficult. So protocols are disabled. I'm running rebuilding the test suite. So let me then try. First 200. Oh, sorry. Run tests 200. Okay, yeah, but that works, and I think 1405 or whatever it was. $1405, 1407. So okay, it works. So somewhere in the bag there's CI. Changes. I'm changing how interleave. There it is. Of course, there it is. And okay, so blame as live. I'm going to git blame and look for interleave. It's here. But I guess it was the end if that was changed. So there it is. If def away more code for disable features protocols. This is the one. A166 git rebase. That's the one. But why do I... They can't use the same commit message exactly. That's stupid. Okay, and I need that interleave data fix from the other branch. Those two test case fixes. How do I do that? I think I can... if I format patch from that, I'll get a patch for it. But I only want those 5. So what if I patch? Can I do it like this? Assume -r. Yes. Didn't work. Or did it? That worked. And I'll try 1407 as well. Yes. Okay, didn't work. I'll handle that one manually then. Test data test 1407, because it was done pretty much the same as 1405. Those tests check the --libcurl function. --libcurl is one of my favorite functions that generates a libcurl code for a curl command line. So if you just run a curl command line, you can run it again with --libcurl and a file name, and it'll generate the C source code for writing an application doing exactly that, but with using libcurl directly. Which is fine, and these two test cases verify that --libcurl works, but it'll work differently if you run a libcurl with disabled protocols. So I can either disable the entire test based on protocols, or I can strip out output in the comparison because of the protocol dependencies. So now I made sure that I don't care for interleave data in the compared output, since it might not be there if HTTP or RTSP, in this case, is disabled. Okay, first check that we're still building without HTTP or RTSP, and we run 200. Fine. 1405. No. $14.05. And 1407. There. Fix up interleave. Skip interleave data from libcurl tests. And I'm going to put that into the previous one. Now where are we then on the entire thing? It still builds everything, right? So I'm going to I'm pretty happy with that as it looks right now. I'm not happy with 2 if there's a way more code for disable features protocol having the same. They don't both do that the same. It's okay, let's leave it like that for now, even if it's a bit ugly. I'm gonna force push this to my branch on so that the CIs will run it. These slow CIs. Remove that, and here are the branches. Here's the CI branch I'm running, so it started over. URL parse without host, still pending. Tiresome. That's builds fine because none of the CI builds actually try it with the Wolf SSH, so it just means that I didn't horribly break anything of the existing code, which is good, I guess. Configure detect missing OpenSSL. Yeah, that's still building as well. I have a lot of branches. I should remove a lot of branches too. Refresh. Sometimes when I merge my own things, I forget to kill the branch remotely, so I have a lot of branches left. So, okay. Here are some things remaining. I'm not sure. As you can see, these are really old. But I suspect that they have some work remaining that I might want to look at or revive or something. So I'm leaving them for now. Oh, this one is old as well. That's just a documentation update for the bug bounty program. Which reminds me, I got a security security vulnerability reported this morning. But since this might be sensitive, I'm not going to show you my work on that. I'm going to switch to working on that when I stop streaming today. So the HackerOne program is actually kind of a success so far, I'd say. That's the bug bounty. So if you found a security vulnerability, you can report it to us and we might offer you a monetary reward. We give out money now for pretty much all security vulnerabilities you can find, even if it's a low, graded low or higher, of course. Of course, you won't get a lot of money for the low graded reports, but you could get something. We have actually rewarded 2 bugs already. We started this program 2 weeks ago, something. We have got, I think, 14, 15 reports. Most of them, of course, then not being accurate or security reports at all, really. But still, we've handed out 2 rewards, and we got another one today. I'm not sure how valid this is, but I'm going to have to look into it. So these 2 reports that we have rewarded, they will be fixed and included and announced in the coming release next week, 7.65.0. And we have CVs and everything, so they are in a good shape, and they're both low, both unlikely to hurt many users. I mean, some users might be hurt by them, of course, but they're low, they're rather weird, but still, they are security vulnerabilities. Someone might actually be able to exploit them in some situations. Okay, I think I'm good for today here. I'm just rambling on, and I'm going to start working on my security bug instead. So I'll have when I push to a branch that is in the pull request already, GitHub brings up this little extra interface to offer me to make a pull request out of it. But I don't want to. I can just let it build in the CIs as it does already. So I'm happy to just leave it like that. And so instead of showing you my coffee break screen today, I'm just going to call it a day and make it a shorter stream today. Uh, and I might get back. I might do another stream tomorrow, or just wait until I have some more meaty stuff to do. Unless you have sort of requests or any other ideas that you want to see or have me do or work on in collaboration with me or whatever. Yeah, and the bounties, of course, the bug bounties we are paying out. I just want to emphasize that we are handing out donated money for this. So we of course rely on the fact that people will keep donating money, whereas otherwise we will probably run out of funds at some point. I mean, depending on how many security problems people find, but the idea here is that we hand out funds as long as we have funds to hand out for problems. And of course, if nobody, and we actually have a few sponsors that are already paying us on a monthly basis. So hopefully we will actually get more money than we actually spend on security bounties. I mean, how many security problems can you have? So hopefully we learn, and hopefully we get better, and hopefully we get fewer and fewer problems, and cross all fingers, hopefully we never get any really severe problems like the critical or high ones, so that we don't have to pay out a lot of money. What might save us a little bit on the higher end of the scale, if someone actually find a really severe critical or high graded security problem in curl, we actually have a sponsor that will cover the extreme end of the rewards amounts if the use case covers their use case. So if you actually find a problem that also makes Dropbox hurt, they will pay a much larger amount of money as a reward. So even if that bug is in curl, I mean, because they use curl, they rely on curl, so they offer to pay up to 32k USD if you can find a critical curl bug that makes them hurt. And 32k USD is a lot of money, but I also think that it's unlikely that anyone will find a critical bug of that sort in curl. But I never say never. Well, the bug bounties, there. First, there's this is the bug bounty URL on the actual curl site, but you can also head over to this HackerOne page on which is curl's. I'm a bit zoomed in. Curl's main page for the bug bounty program. Then we run it together or with the help of HackerOne. So you use the HackerOne system. So if you find a problem, head over to this page and enter this submit report thing and just go with it. Yeah, what bugs could there be, right? But as I said, 2 security bugs in this next release, and if you wonder, so what could we possibly do after 21 years? You can look at the pending release notes for the coming release. Here are bug fixes we are doing in this pending release. Here's the list of bug fixes. So sure, 21 years and counting, but we can still fix bugs. They are actually, I think there are 94 bugs right now counting, and I think we're with a week, since we're a week off next release away from, I think we can still land a few more bug fixes. So maybe we'll get up to 100 or so. And if we look at the release notes, the release log, I like the release log. Yeah, sure, go ahead, ask me. I'm just talking away. So we can see that we're doing bug fixes in this rate per release. 116, 76, 79, 118, 102. So we're doing way more than one big bug fix per day on average. Maybe 2, maybe 3 per day on average, sort of the last year or so. bug fixes accumulated over 2.5 years. We had 1,400 bug fixes. So that's 700, a little less than 700 per year. A little less than 2 bug fixes per day on average. Becoming an open source developer is easy. Becoming an open source developer that actually are getting paid for what you're doing, that's much harder. But I'm not sure I'm a very good example, since I've been doing open source for a very, very, very long time, but I haven't actually been paid for it for the biggest part of my life. I've done open source since when did I do my first? I think I started doing my first open source stuff in the mid 90s, maybe 94, 93, 94 something, which is a long time ago. And I've always thought it was fun, so I've always done it as a sort of a spare time thing. I played with it and contributed whatever I wanted or could, and felt that I had something to offer, and it was fun to do. And that's how I became an open source developer. I just did it because I wanted to, and I felt a need, and I wanted to get things done. But then, of course, that didn't make me a paid developer to do open source. Then I've been working as a software engineer in daytime, and I've done proprietary code for a long time until I've actually got paid to do open source stuff during the day. I mean, so there are, I would say there are many different aspects of being an open source developer. Open source developing is just a matter of finding a project that you want to help out with, possibly fixing issues that you actually have. You found a spelling error, or fix a problem with something you use or like every day, possibly, perhaps. That's something something that using a programming language that you know and like, and get your feet wet there. Participate in that community and start submitting patches or reviews and help out. And then, of course, you need to get a job within an open source if you want to get paid to do open source. How do you get a job with someone who's working with open source? I don't know. In my case, of course, I just happened to work with curl and HTTP stuff, and happened to do a project that got a lot of users, and then eventually I got an offer from a company working with open source, and that being Mozilla. So I didn't actually work with open source specifically until 2014. But then I didn't work on my own project, right? I worked with Firefox, which is, of course, open source, but not my open source. And then it took me another 5 years to actually start working on my own open source. So I would imagine that what you need to do, you need to be a software developer, you need to be involved in open source, you need to understand open source, and then you need to apply for jobs at open source companies. I think I can't say that it's an easy route, because I think it's a hard route, but I think that is at least one way you can do it. Or do a fun project of your own and start your own company, but it's a tough call. It's hard to come up with a good business plan and how to earn money at the same time as you give your stuff away for free. But of course there are different, grayscales. What is given away for free? Something is free, something isn't free. People's time are rarely free ever, so yeah. Yeah. Well, the world is drowning in good projects, right? So it's. I don't think that it's necessarily a good thing to start a new project, because whatever you come up with, there's likely to be at least 1 or 3 other existing projects that already are solving that problem. So maybe starting your own project isn't really the best idea. But sometimes I guess it is. So we can't judge just. I don't think all ideas have been done, and I don't think everything has been done in the best way. So I think there are room for new things, but yes, helping out with existing projects is probably the a good route, a good idea. And why not? I mean, for every open source project that is out there, I don't think there are many open source projects that say, hey, we're fully staffed, there's no room for any more contributors, don't come here. Basically all projects have room for more contributors, and they want more help, and they need more people to help out to improve their projects. I mean, curl is no exception. So I would say that whatever project you find, you can help out, and people will appreciate your presence as long as you're being a good person. Of course, you behave and you're nice and you do good stuff. So yeah, you should rewrite libcurl in Rust. You'd get some fans for that. Frank will lead the way, surely, right? Hiding there with a weird nick, but I can recognize the phrase saying like that. Rewrites in general is something, I'm an old guy by now. I don't believe in rewrites. Rewrites is only fun until you're back in the same position again. And if you've done a project as old as curl, you know that if you rewrite every 5 years, you have the same problem again after 5 years. So rewriting is never the answer to any software problem, really. Not for the long term. The long term is fix the shit instead and do it correctly and just iterate. C is going to live for a long time, I'm sure. I'm not suggesting actually that C is always the right choice for everything. Hacks is a very, very big conglomerate of consisting of 3 people actually. We're all Swedes. It's me, my brother, and a third friend. So Hacks is actually a company in Sweden. So it started a long time ago. We founded Hacks as just a company to do basically business on the side from our employments back in the day, actually before curl started in 1997, I think. And then after a long time, I worked for curl as a consultant. I worked for Hacks as a consultant. I think I started doing that full time in 2009 until I got employed by Mozilla. So then my brother and our friend Linus is working as consultants employed by Hacks right now, mostly in embedded systems, embedded Linux, embedded systems. So I don't actually do anything under Hacks really, but I'm still involved. We still own the domain, we still run a few things, and we still have a bunch of subdomains, and that's why the curl site is under the Hacks domain, because it's our company. We have the Hacks domain, we have a lot of things there. That's Hacks. And the other day I actually put up this little box on the front page about donating to the curl project, actually, and I also updated that page just because of this bug bounty program that I mentioned before, that we actually have a reason to spend money. And when we start to spend money in the project, which we basically never did before, we just need to make sure that we will also get a little bit of amount of money coming in. So if you would ever donate to curl, you would go to Open Collective. Open Collective is actually a US non-profit that hold on to our funds basically, so you can donate to us via Open Collective. So then they get the money and they hold it for us, and we can spend it there. We can actually pay money from there to HackerOne, and from HackerOne we can reward security researchers for finding bugs. So that is some other insights into this. What more? I don't think there's anything more right now. I need more coffee, and I need to go work on my security issue. So, okay, I'll check out my Wolf SSL build issue on the side. Maybe I'll stream again tomorrow. Maybe I'll wait until another day. I need to check my schedule, but I'll put up an event in the Twitch thing, if that even helps anyone. But anyway, that's it for now. So curl safely until next time. Bye.